Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Iceberg Lounge. I'm your host, Thomas Single. With me is your other host, Randy Dobbins.
Hello.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about our review of Spider-Man No Way Home in our last podcast of the year. So spoilers will be ahead. So if you do not want to listen to this, stop now.
Come back after you watch the movie.
Exactly. We've given you fair warning.
Today we are going to go over some Easter eggs and post-credit scenes and stuff like that if you're interested.
Exactly. But if you don't want it to be spoiled, then I would leave before we come back from the break. So yeah, let's get down to see the review that we have for Spider-Man No Way Home, and we will be back after the word from our sponsor. Hey, this is Thomas Single from the Iceberg Lounge, and I'm here to talk to you today about Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and guess what? It's absolutely free, which you can use right from your cell phone or computer just like I do. They even have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds amazing. They'll even distribute your podcast for you. You don't even have to do it yourself. So it can be heard everywhere, from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with minimum listenership. So why don't you download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Okay, and we're back. So we went to go see Spider-Man No Way Home on Monday.
Something Oh, sorry.
It's all good. I was just talking about kind of the scene of when we walked in there about the scene in the movie theater.
Oh yeah, the line we went Monday. What was Monday?
Yeah.
No, what was the date for Monday?
The date for Monday was the 20th.
Yeah. So we went Monday the 20th of 2020.
2021.
Like, for it to be out for 4 days, that movie theater was packed.
Yeah, the line went all the way back to pretty much the entrance to the door.
Yeah. It went from the concession stand all the way back to where you come in.
Yeah, and honestly, it probably would have been better for us to get there an hour earlier, to be honest, because it was a rush to get through there. And I'm pretty sure all of it was for No Way Home.
Yeah, because the movie theater was packed. Like, where the actual, where it was shut, like where we would go into to where we could actually watch it was packed.
Yeah.
I guess you would say the room that we watched it in.
Yeah. Luckily,
we found 4 in the middle.
Yeah, and we got through the line pretty quick, thanks to Emily signing us up so we could use that exclusive line.
Yeah, and which I think we could have anyway because they never asked us for anything.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, they never said, "Hey, are you a member?" or anything. They just thought we were, so I was just like, "Here."
But yeah, it was so packed apparently throughout the whole weekend. Like, the actual movie theater ran out of popcorn before we could get any.
Oh yeah.
So if that tells you anything, they were making hand over fist that whole weekend.
Yeah, because it's right now box office sale for I think opening weekend and opening night is rivaling Endgame. If that tells you anything.
Yeah, right now it's I think second overall for opening.
And speaking of Endgame, people say, I've heard some people talk about this, that this movie, like Far From Home, no wait, not Far From Home, No Way Home, was better than Endgame, and I have to say, while it was a great movie and is honestly now one of my favorites, I don't think it's better than Endgame.
I would probably give it a top 5 slot, if not top 3.
Yeah, honestly, I would say top three for me, definitely, but I wouldn't say it's better than Endgame.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's better than Endgame either. Now I would probably say it's probably for me close second or third.
Yeah, to me, like I would say, Endgame to me personally, Endgame is one.
Yeah,
Then I would say Spider No Way Home is second, and then Infinity War.
yeah, I'd give it. Yeah,
Like that's like my top three movies. And here's the thing, let y'all have a little insight on my life. I have every movie and like order of the timeline. Now when I go by Far From Home, I have to put Shang-Chi before or after Far From Home because no, actually probably after because Far From now is when does Shang-Chi where does Shang-Chi take place? Because to me it has to be after No Way Home since we see Wong entering a portal and then in Shang-Chi he's fighting Abomination.
yeah, because I mentioned to you when we saw him walking through the portal that it did kind of look like a background in Shang Chi.
Yeah. In which I
Um,
had mentioned to you when we saw Shang-Chi, hey, in the No Way Home trailers, Wong is walking through a portal, so that could be where he's going. And
ex-
I think it is confirmed that he is walking through because you can see like little like a the clock tower in Mashapur, which is where it's taking place.
yeah, yeah. So, like Randy was saying, it was starting exactly where it stopped in Far From Home.
Yes.
And so you're thrown directly into the action right from the get go.
And something, I'm going to back up a little bit here. Something that threw me off was right before the Marvel like logo and credits all show up in the movie, you start hearing J. Jonah Jameson,
Mm-hmm.
which I was like very interesting because that's only the second time that I know of that they've done something like that. The,
Yeah,
the only other time I know that they've done something like that is in Endgame
exactly.
when
Um,
the Asgardian ship is like sending out a distress signal because obviously Thanos has just attacked the Asgardian ship.
exactly. And so now you're seeing as we see uh Aunt May is now and Happy have broken up
Yes.
now to where Peter is the most infamous man on the planet probably right now
Yes.
because of the lie Mysterio,
Has put out.
which I still think he's not dead.
With what we've seen in Far From Home, with all the illusions and tech that Mysterio had, I feel like what he could have made an illusion where he it looked like he was still there and Peter killed him, but he like in reality like crawled away or something.
And what we will be talking about later connects back to this murderer theme throughout the movie of will Peter actually become a murderer?
Yes.
Um, and we'll touch back on that later. But then he gets taken in by damage control.
Yeah. Who we first really seen in the MCU. We first really saw them in Homecoming because they were cleaning up the mess from I think the first Avengers movie.
Yeah, from the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're getting
Which gives
integrated.
another tie back to the Vulture because Adrian Toome's crew was cleaning up stuff before Damage Control took over.
True. Um, but now Peter's getting interrogated. Uh, Ned is, MJ is, um, Aunt May is, Happy is. Everyone's getting their stories to
Take
damage control.
and I hate that back. I want to give a little Easter egg before we continue. When Spider Man is swinging through trying to get MJ somewhere safe, when they figure out Peter Parker is Spider Man, you see his girlfriend from Homecoming, Liv. You see her on a magazine. I think it's Time, where it's talking about him.
Oh wow.
But anyway, continue.
And I'm gonna have to back up a little bit too, because this reminded me of something. Oh well, no, it comes up later. I forgot about that. But basically, they're getting interrogated, and so like they're trying to lie, like in Ned's case, to try to get them to
Crack.
throw the other ones under the bus, which I thought was kind of dirty.
Yeah, because Ned, he was all like, "Oh, Spider Man's man in the guy in the chair," because that's what he calls himself. He's Spider Man's guy in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, "So, what you're saying is you were Peter Parker's accomplice in all this, and you were probably his biggest accomplice."
Exactly. And then they're trying to force his hand over stuff. But what happens next, Randy?
One of my favorite, honestly, this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Is they show MJ and she's not talking. Only thing she says is, "I want a lawyer."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The whole time she goes, "Nah, I want a lawyer." This movie actually made me finally like MJ. Uh Zendaya MJ. Um
Which you know, Zendaya's my girl. That's my celeb crush. Which I was kind of hesitant because I was like, is she gonna play MJ good, or you know what I mean?
yeah.
How is she gonna play it? But the moment I saw her in Homecoming, I fell in love with her MJ.
This is the first time that I really have liked her character was during No Way Home.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. This is the first time they put Watson at the end of her name.
Yes, which is very interesting because this whole time I'm like, it's weird that it's Michelle Jones.
Exactly. So it's like, is it really a parallel of the other MJs? Apparently, in a way, yes.
Um,
Um,
Something else is why does she not want to go by Watson?
yeah. Unless, because in previous in the McGuire MJ, her household isn't that stable.
Yeah, Her dad is. I don't think we see it, but her dad seems very abusive
Yeah.
in a
And
way.
so maybe that kind of parallels with Zendaya MJ.
Yeah, kind of like I out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
Because we have yet to, as far as I know, we have not yet to see her parents.
No. No, we just know um that apparently the dad likes Peter, well did. Um and that's pretty much it, and that's only from one line in No Way Home.
Yeah, because I don't. I think up until now, there's been no mention of her parents.
Yeah. So we honestly, as of right now, we just know that she has a father. We don't know if the mother's alive or what.
Yeah.
But continue on, man.
But one of my favorite scenes is like I said, this is up there for favorite scenes. It's after this whole they're interrogating them and everything, they get home and Matt Murdock shows up, and I was so happy.
Which me and you have been talking about this, about the canonicity of the Netflix Marvel shows.
Yes, which I'm just because the reason they weren't considered canon before was because the guy I don't remember his name, but there was Kevin Feige who was over the movies, and then there was another guy who was over the TV shows. Well,
Yeah.
they had a back and forth because they were mentioning stuff in the movies and the TV shows, but the movies weren't referencing the TV shows. And anyway, Kevin Feige said they're not canon.
Well, apparently he's went back on that because
And see, now I'm kind of caught in the crossroads where I'm leaning to both sides, but I'm waiting to see or hear something
only
because
way I can say that they're not canon is if he says that the Netflix shows are from a different universe, but the Daredevil that is in the MCU is canon. Like, it's the same person,
yeah,
but they're different. One is outside the MCU, one's in the MCU.
yeah,
That's the only way I could see that working out, because now it's like, well, if you look in that and look at the Kingpin situation.
See, I haven't watched all of Hawkeye yet. That's what we want to do today. But I've heard that Kingpin is in there.
Like, it, to me, as of right now, at least, that's the thing, is I really feel like they are canon now, because if they're not, they're going to have to explain away a lot of things.
Yeah. So when do you want to go over some Easter eggs?
You can sprinkle them in throughout. I was just trying to go through the movie,
Yeah.
kind of like our
We can
favorite moments in
we can do it at
order.
the end if that's okay with you.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because there are a few that I'm looking at the website that we have already gone over, but we'd have to talk about the rest that I'm seeing.
And you can see that Daredevil kind of already has a skill, because he caught that brick.
Like, right, he turned his hand, caught it, and then if you notice, Peter also reached out to get it because of his spider sense.
Exactly. So I feel Daredevil is almost gonna be like a sidekick to Spider-Man in his next trilogy.
See, I feel like they're gonna. I don't know necessarily if I would say sidekick, but I feel like they'll work together.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, let's keep moving forward.
So after Daredevil shows up, you got Peter, Ned, and MJ. They're going back to Midtown High.
And by the way, that school news anchor, how dare she use that line?
Betty.
Go get him, Tiger.
Yeah, I was very, because that you heard me probably. I was like, that's MJ's line.
Yeah, like I would rather have MJ say it, or at some point somebody else say it.
Yeah. And also, if you notice on TikTok, she was doing TikToks before the movie.
Oh no, I was following the Daily Bugle on TikTok.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like I thought that was brilliant of them to do that.
Yeah, I thought it was genius, to be honest.
And so yeah, they even got the guy who actually plays J. Jonah Jameson to do some of them as well.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't know that. I haven't been following it closely.
Oh yeah, it was real cool. I enjoyed it. Honestly, I kind of want them to keep going with it, like every so often.
Yeah. Also, if you remember, there was a guy who was like, "I love you, Zendaya."
Oh yeah,
No, like, "I love you, MJ," or whatever.
yeah,
Did you know? I don't know if you know this. That's Zendaya's assistant.
yeah. In real life,
Yes.
yeah.
Like,
That was interesting.
I thought that was pretty cool that they let him do that.
But yeah, so now all of them.
Cause you have people on one side who's pro Spider-Man, and then on the other side you got anti Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, all of them are infamous. Ned, MJ, and Peter, and then you have Flash trying to
Get in
get
there.
up with them with their coattails.
Yeah. Cause Flash is always picking on Peter in the movies and kind of honestly just being a douchebag to Peter.
Exactly.
And now I'm gonna let you talk about his book because you could talk more about that. You'd have more knowledge on it.
So this is kind of another Easter egg as well. His book that he got done and published real quick, don't know how, was called Flashpoint, basically giving him he's writing about his memories and stuff with Peter and all the times they hung out when they never did. But the reference in there is to Flashpoint, which is a reference to um, DC canon, main universe canon, and storyline where the Flash was trying to go back in time, run back in time to save his mother from dying. But in doing so, he changed the rest of the timeline. And so it's interesting how this is paralleling because of events that happened in the movie where he has good intentions, but in the end, it's his fault that all that's happening is happening.
And that now that you say that, kind of reflects Peter Parker's current situation.
Exactly.
And especially, we'll get into this later, but especially what Aunt May was telling him.
Exactly. Like the Flash had great intentions because he wanted to save his mother. But because of that, he messed up the timeline in the future.
Also,
And
this is the second straight Marvel movie that they made references to DC.
Exactly. And here's the bigger thing. That one instance messed up stuff in the DC multiverse, which also parallels Spider-Man.
Yeah. But they walk into school, and this is honestly one of the funniest moments in uh the movie, where you had the principal, you had Pete, the one of the coaches. I think he's one of the coaches, and then you had Peter's like one of the teachers who like does the decathlon for
Oh
him.
yeah.
And the teacher that does the decathlon's like, like, oh, the student set you up, and the gym teacher's like, you set it up.
Exactly. Like the gym teacher was like totally not for any of this.
Yeah, and he was like, well, I helped at the some of the students like, you did it by yourself.
Yeah, it was so crazy.
And then
And
the gym teacher's like, I know what you did. Uh, I'm not
Mis-
like he was basically telling Spider Man, I'm not a fan of you. I believe Mysterio.
yeah, and you saw that throughout the whole movie in the background where it kept saying Mysterio was right.
Yeah,
Just everywhere.
and
And so now the only place he can find any peace is up on the roof.
yeah,
And this is where the story sort of picks up, because this is when doesn't he that's when he went to the bridge.
no,
No, what happened then? Go ahead.
I think it was him and Zendaya are on top of the roof, and they're talking, and then yeah, they're on the roof talking about I can't remember what they're talking about. What they were just sitting down talking, and Ned comes in and kind of ruins the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Ned, will you shut up?
And then
Not
what
that I don't
happened
like
after that? Wasn't that the bridge?
where he talks to the lady for MIT.
Oh wait, no, that was later. Anyway,
Yeah.
you lead me in this. You know the timeline better.
So I believe what happens is they on the roof talking, and they're talking about their college, and they're like, what are we gonna do if we don't get in MIT?
Exactly.
And they're like, we got Peter's like, even if we don't get into MIT, we still got, backup schools that we can match up with.
Yeah.
And
And
I feel like he's still looking up to Iron Man at this point, because guess where Iron Man went to school? Guess where Tony Stark went to school?
MIT.
Yep. And this also go. You know what's weird about this? It also goes back to Mysterio, because that's when in Civil War, Tony gave a speech at MIT where he introduced Barf.
Yep.
So I mean, that also I didn't even think about that until now. That also turns back to Mysterio, because Mysterio was apparently there listening to Tony talk about Barf, but I think they eventually get their letters from the colleges and stuff, and none of them are saying accepted, and finally they get their letters from MIT.
Yeah. And this is where they're being real good friends.
Yeah. And Peter says he's been rejected. MJ says he's been rejected. She's been rejected. And Ned says basically they're gonna have to reconsider, because with all the controversies. And we talked about this in the movie theater. Um, we both felt like they were lying to
Yeah,
protect Peter. So here's my thing. I feel like they're either lying or telling the truth. I'm kind of in the middle of it because why I feel like they're telling the truth is because what is actually going on with them and Peter,
exactly.
and I feel the reason I feel like they're lying is because one, MJ said, you if you're if you look for disappointment, you'll never be disappointed.
Yeah,
And Ned, he ripped up his letter and said, then he cleaned it all up and said, I'm gonna have to show this to my mom or whatever.
yeah. So that way they know.
Yeah, but because it was that's why I feel like they're lying because it's
I
just
feel
like,
that way as well.
why do you need to show your mom that you got rejected?
Exactly. Why can't you just tell her?
Yeah, like I don't know. Then Peter's just like, I'm trying to remember what happens next.
I think he got a call from Flash.
I think this is where he's like, I'm gonna go talk to Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Um, and
And then
so he goes to
to
the
the
sanctum,
the Sanctum Sanctorum.
and a big kind of uh nugget drops down where Doctor Strange isn't
The Sorcerer Supreme anymore.
exactly, and I guess we just didn't think about it, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Now it's Wong.
yeah, because the only reason Wong got it because of the blip.
Yeah, where because Strange had obviously uh dusted and was gone for 5 years because even Doctor Strange was like, he got it on a technicality.
Exactly. Um, and then we get a little nugget to where Ned says he has some family ties to, I guess, people in his past in the family that worked with magic.
Yeah, I believe that's later on.
No, I think it was when they were going up the stairs.
I don't think they were there with him when he first went.
Yeah, probably not, but
I But Peter was talking to him like, "Hey, is there any way you could help me out here? Like, make people forget that I'm Peter Parker, that I'm Spider Man."
exactly.
And Wong is basically telling him, "Don't do the spell."
Yeah, don't do it.
And then like Strange ends up doing it anyway. I feel like this is a little out of character for Strange, just to rashly do it.
Um,
Like, I get
I
that.
don't necessarily think so because I feel like he feels he is the replacement mentor of since Iron Man's dead.
Yeah, he gave one of my favorite quotes though. Peter's like calling him Sir's like, we fought through space. We fought in space together. You don't have to call me sir. He's like, okay, Steven is like, that feels weird, but I'll allow it.
Exactly.
But yeah, like he ends up going to do the spell. And I told you this. I feel like Strange should have took a minute and said, "Hey, who do you want to remember? Like, is there anybody you want to remember that you're Spider Man?"
Exactly.
Like, I feel like that was very out of character for him. Like, he should have been like, "Hey, who do you want to remember you?" Because obviously Peter would. I feel like there are some people that should remember he's Spider Man. Obviously, Aunt May, Happy, MJ, Doctor Strange, Wong. I feel like they should remember.
Yeah.
And who I feel like is left out of like Peter saying, "I want these people to remember."
Who?
Kind of feel like it's important that all the Avengers know that he's Spider-Man.
True.
Like
True.
I feel like that is a plot hole in the movie. Not that
Yeah.
like there's like not many in the movie, but I just feel like it's a plot hole that at least the Avengers or at least Nick Fury should be remembered.
Exactly.
Also, that's something else we forgot to talk about. When they were talking to Damage Control was talking to him, Peter was like, "Oh yeah, well I talked to Nick Fury," and the Damage Control guy was like, "Nick Fury has been in space for the past year."
So he had to be talking to an alien.
Because if you watch the end credit scenes to Far From Home, you see that it scrolls.
Exactly.
So
Which
it's
is
just
setting up.
secret invasion.
Exactly.
So it's just like, one, does Nick Fury know that they done that? Two, what? Who knows? But anyway, Strange goes through with the spell.
Keeps getting interrupted by Peter wanting someone else to remember him, and
Because he interrupted 5 times.
exactly.
He's like, I want MJ to remember. I want Ned to remember. I want Aunt May, Happy. Wait, who's the fifth one?
He finally says, "I just want
Well, everyone
everyone."
who knew I was Peter Parker Spider Man to remember.
Exactly.
And I feel like, because Strange said he messed it up 6 times. And I feel like we talked about this before. I feel like the sixth person was Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and I disagreed because I was like, well, you have to count the first one before the 5 other changes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, then it got then basically space and time broke,
Yeah.
and that is in the moment in time, actually in Venom 2, where Venom got transported to the MCU, was during that scene.
Yeah. During his end credit scene of Let There Be Carnage is when he got brought into the MCU, but which we'll talk about that later.
Exactly. And then Strange was able to contain it.
Yeah. And then Strange was like, well, basically like asking him why didn't he has he called the emissions?
Exactly. And he's like, basically, you
You,
would think you would do that first before coming to me.
he's like, and Peter was like, you can do that.
Yeah, he didn't even know he could do that.
Also, if you notice, what kind of sweatshirt Strange was wearing, he was wearing a Columbia University
Yeah,
sweatshirt where Strange went to college.
exactly. There you go.
But he kind of got mad at Peter, and I understand.
Oh, yeah, same here. It's
Like,
like you went to me first when there were still other options.
yeah,
Like making everyone forget literally should have been your last option.
yeah. But this is the point where he eventually like calls Flash and asks him about the mixer,
Oh, yeah, that he was going to.
and Flash is like, "Oh, what do I get out of this?"
Yeah, and Superman was like, "All right,
Super
you're my best friend."
Superman, Spider Man.
Yeah, sorry.
We're keeping that in. But Peter was like, All right, well, I'll swing you to school for a week.
Exactly.
And Flash is like, a month. But it's like, I'm not bargaining with you. You're getting a week.
Exactly.
And I'll say you're my best friend. And at this point, like, he figures out, Flash tells him, oh, the admissions lady, she's on the way to the airport.
Yeah, and that's when he was like, "All right," and then got the idea to go meet her literally in traffic.
Yeah. And this is probably the first big scene in the movie. Like, he goes to talk to her, and the bridge starts shaking.
Oh yeah, and you hear the sound of those metal tentacles.
And it turns out Doc Ock has come through.
It was Doctor Otto Octavius, and the first thing he said is "Hello, Peter," thinking it was Tobey Maguire Spider-Man,
At least
and
he was,
asked him what he did with his machine.
at least he was nice enough to say hi.
Exactly.
But he's thinking that, hey, this is my Peter Parker, my Spider Man, on and like start fighting, and like almost kills like a bunch of people.
Exactly. And then he was able to use the Stark nanobots to take over the AI of the tentacles.
Yes. And then which he used to lock the tentacles up and control them.
Exactly. And then by the time that all got done, you hear a little laugh in the background and you see a green goblin bomb.
Yeah, you see, I'm trying to remember what they're called. I think they're called pumpkin bombs.
Yeah, and then right before really anything crazy happened, um, let's see, Pete and ported back to Doctor Strange's place.
Yeah. And Doctor Strange, like, apparently has, like, these things to where they're kind of like cages or cells.
Yeah, they're kind of like cages and cells that they put Doc Ock in,
And
and
find out there's also the lizard.
exactly, which had the best jump scare in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It made me jump, and so now we know that a Toby villain's in and a Andrew villain is in. Both of them are doctors.
Yeah. Which is interesting to think about because you got Doctor Strange, Doctor Connors, and Doctor Octavius.
Exactly. Um, which really won't be the last doctor if you count Green Goblin.
Yeah, that's
And
what I have to bring up.
yeah, go ahead.
No, that's just what I was about to say. Like, that's not technically the last Doctor.
Exactly. And so now, pretty much in the movie, Spider Man is now kind of challenged to now go out, collect everybody that's not from this universe. So that way we can keep them in one direct location and send them back to their universe because their fate is to die.
Yes, and Peter is very torn about it.
Exactly, because he wants to do the right thing.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, I want to do the right thing, but then I feel like it's kind of odd that he's just like, okay, we're just gonna send him back.
What talking about at towards the end?
Yeah,
Well, technically he did send them back because his thing was more of let me try to give them a second chance to.
Cause he was talking to Aunt May, and he was like, Aunt May, it's not my problem. Not to get ahead,
Exactly. And so
not to get ahead of ourselves, but
exactly. So he wants to rehabilitate them.
yeah. But he ends up finding uh I believe through TikTok, weirdly enough, that there's like an electrical problem near this military base.
Exactly. And so he swings out towards that way with his new kind of
Somewhat new.
wrist blaster that Doctor Strange gave him to shoot at him to send him directly to jail.
And he's having problems. Having a lot of problems with Electro.
Yeah, because at first,
You know.
we were seeing the sand and we're like, Sandman. And then all of a sudden you have the electrical storm in the background. And I was confused. All of a sudden, Sandman's trying to protect Spider-Man.
See, I knew what was going on because at the end of Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, they ended up on good terms.
Yeah, and so we have this another connection of elemental villains. Because you had the Lizard and Doc Ock based off of animals.
Yeah.
Now you have these based off of elements. And that was
Sandman.
Sandman and Electro. And I enjoy Jamie Foxx as Electro.
Oh, I do too. And then you kind of have one based on mythology with the Green Goblin.
Well, see, I'm bringing up that later because it's like, well, there was only 5, but you get to the end credit scene. Really, it makes more sense of how a comparison between Green Goblin and the person later on.
I got you.
That I'll bring up later. But yeah, he ends up locking them up, and so he's got everybody there besides Goblin, and it seems like this later on it's just like, yeah, I should have seen that it was being too easy.
See, my thing was Sandman was willing to help Peter, and then he figured out that like he was going to put them in this containment, and then he's just like, I'm not doing that.
Exactly. So you had 4 of the 5 villains locked up, and it was this point to where he's like, maybe we can like heal y'all specifically, and what happened to y'all.
Doc Ock and Lizard were very against it.
Very against it. And so he then takes them back to the safe house that they're in right now.
I'm trying to remember, at what point does Peter go to Aunt May or get that call?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it before that?
I'm not too sure.
I think it's before that he was like, hey, Aunt May's like, hey, I got your friend here. And then he goes to Feast.
Oh, yeah. That was before he sends them back. And what is another Easter egg was when Green Goblin finally landed in an alley, he was hiding his stuff, and obviously the evil side of him was taunting him. And it was a mirrored parallel of his Peter throwing away his spider suit back in his movie.
Yes.
And so you're actually trying to see him try to be good, and you feel bad for him.
Yeah, because It's almost like a. I don't want to lure it to schizophrenia, but it's kind of like that where
I was thinking the same thing to where he's fighting himself.
yeah. But he ends up going to feast, and Aunt May calls Peter.
Yeah, and then when Peter showed up, he's like, almost kind of on edge, like Aunt May's almost in trouble, even though everything is calm.
Yeah, and Norman starts talking about how he's in a different world. There's no Oscorp. Someone's living in his home.
So that proves that in the MCU there will never be a Green Goblin.
I,
Not saying that there can't be a Hobgoblin,
yeah,
but there's no Norman Osborn. There's no Oscorp,
yeah,
which was an interesting little lore nugget.
yeah. He also brings up and my son Harry.
Exactly, which he doesn't know
Harry
ends up dying in later on in the Toby franchise.
because, but yeah, they Peter and Aunt May, which we were talking about earlier, have this little discussion about Peter's just like, it's not my problem.
Exactly.
And Aunt May's like, you have to help. That's what we do. We help
Exactly.
people. So they take him and Lizard, well, they load up everybody in the feast van and they go back to the safe house.
Yeah, and Happy, ironically, is not happy about it.
Yeah. He's not too happy about it.
Um, and it seems like he's sort of the first one he's trying to fix is Doc Ock.
Yes.
And even though Doc Ock he's helpless because Peter still has control of the tentacles. So there's really nothing he can do.
Yeah.
Um Peter heals him.
Yeah. And then because if you notice the little things on the tentacles go from red to blue like it does in the Toby movies.
Exactly. And so Doc Ock is healed.
Yeah.
And now Doc Ock is like, all right, let's get the rest of y'all.
Because if you notice, Doc Ock goes, the voices, they're gone.
Yeah, and it's almost like he wanted to say, I can finally like think
For myself.
now.
But now it's just I feel like what they're gonna do now because they the next person they went to was Electro.
Exactly. And his thing was basically draining all that energy from him.
Yeah. But he was also wanting to hesitant about it. He's wanting to drain the energy from the art reactor and the thing that they're working on.
Yeah, because it's almost like it's calling him to do it.
Yeah. And so what they're working on now, well, that is draining the energy from Electro. They're working on the serum for Doc Ock. I mean, not Doc Ock, but Norman.
Exactly. And you pointed out something in the movie theater that I didn't catch. And it was when someone was talking to Norman and was basically like, you ready to go back to normal? The voice that answered back
Was the evil Norman.
was the goblin voice.
Yeah.
And so now everyone's kind of gathered in a room together because Peter's spidey senses was tingling. Something wasn't right. Something was up. And honestly, in the movie theater, I thought we was about to get our sixth villain.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. I was sitting there thinking, man, are we who's showing up or what's happening?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Venom.
I did too. Well, I was thinking either Venom or like another villain that we didn't know about, or
Exactly. And then,
turns out to be Goblin.
yeah, the Green Goblin, who ended up, oh man, like that. You go ahead and go over the scene, because honestly, this is where I started this sequence and this kind of scene where I was starting to tear up.
So Goblin ends up throwing a bomb, ends up exploding the room, and I think Peter's like, Aunt May, go, like, run, get out of here. Ends up fighting Sandman, Electro, and Goblin.
Uh-huh.
And eventually, I can't remember if Doc Ock was helping Peter or fighting him.
He was helping Peter.
But they end up all, or at least Peter ends up downstairs.
Yeah, down on ground level.
And this is, I also started to tear up on this. Goblin ends up attacking Peter and ends up like calling his glider, which ends up hitting Aunt May,
stabbing her.
Yes. And didn't think nothing about it, thought maybe it missed her. Well, Goblin ends up fighting Peter and he ends up leaving, throwing another goblin bomb. And Peter's sitting there thinking, oh, Aunt May, are you okay? And she ends up like kind of like wobbly.
But she was standing up, so I kind of felt like she was okay at the time.
Yeah, because I was sitting there thinking, okay, Aunt May's fine. Cool. Then she ends up
dropping to the ground.
Yeah, kind of weak knee, drop to the ground. And Peter's like, no, Aunt May. And he's like, we need an ambulance. Because at this point.
Because he removed his hand from her back and it was just covered in her blood.
Yes. And at this point, police are surrounded this building.
Oh, yeah. I believe it was damage control.
I think it may have been. But they ended up like happy pulling in. Him and Peter making eye contact while Peter is crying.
Exactly.
And I feel like Happy knew.
Yeah, he knew. He had to have known.
And they ended up, I don't understand why, but arresting Happy.
Well, they see him as an accomplice as well.
Yeah. But Aunt May ends up dying, and I honestly was crying.
Oh, I was too. Oh, man, I was crying. After that, I couldn't tell you how long I was crying throughout the rest of that movie.
Because something I said made you laugh, and I was like, no, not hot Aunt May.
No, yeah, you said, no, not hot Aunt May, and I was like, Randy.
I mean, it kind of feeling better, though.
But then after that, Spider-Man just...
He was going to kill Goblin.
Yeah, he went up and was just listening to J. Jonah Jameson and his propaganda against him. And this is where he pretty much decided, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah. But I believe this cuts to MJ and Ned, and they're like, MJ's like, we haven't heard from him. I'm pressing the button.
Exactly, which was
Well,
Doctor Strange put the containment in the special box that can heal the breaks and restore it,
yeah,
and kind of press the button to reset everything.
and take these people back to their own universes.
Exactly.
And Ned ends up saying no. Hold on, what's what? And he ends up saying something like, "I just want to see Peter," and you see Sparks.
Exactly. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, good. Doctor Strange is coming back.
That's what I thought. Then I was like, wait a minute, he has the sling ring.
Exactly.
And then I think MJ notices and was like, say that again.
Exactly.
And he goes, I want to see Peter. And it starts more, and he says, finally, I want to see Peter. And this was when we were kind of like, oh, yeah.
Because
Because,
we saw a black figure in an alley.
and we thought it was,
I thought it might have been Toby.
yeah. Well,
But then
see,
we saw running.
I thought it was, I was like, it was Tom Holland's Peter.
Yeah. Then we saw running, and out comes Andrew
Garfield.
Garfield. And we freaked.
Yes. And he was like, they were like, you're not Peter. It's like, yeah, I am.
Yeah, I am.
And then finally, he's like, MJ's like, prove it. Prove that you're Spider Man.
Exactly. And this was another funny part because, like, the grandmother, like, apparently this wasn't strange to her at all. So, no telling what she's seen. She was just worried about getting the cobwebs down.
Yeah. He like, but yeah, MJ's like, prove it. And he like takes his hand, sticks to the ceiling. He's hanging there. And MJ's like, that's not like enough proof. And he's like, what do you mean that's not enough proof? I'm hanging from the ceiling.
Exactly. Like, what else do you need?
And then she's like, crawl around. And then Ned's Abuela is like, hey, can you get that cobweb?
And
He
so
crawls
I think
over, gets the cobweb, and they're basically like, yeah, we believe you now.
exactly, but Zendaya the whole time keeps throwing bread at him.
Yes, which I'm just like, look. Like, it was making me laugh.
And then I think it was MJ was like, try it again. And so Ned was trying it again, and it opens up another portal, and out comes Toby Maguire.
Yeah. And they were like, who are you? This is just some guy. And at this point, I'm yelling, that's not some guy. That's my Spider Man.
Exactly.
I was
And
like, how dare you?
and both of them have this rugged look on their face. Like they've been through a lot since we've last seen them.
Yes. And him and Toby and Andrew were both like, kind of like,
Fighting each other for a second.
yeah, until they both figured out who they were.
Exactly. And
Something also interesting when they were explaining it to Andrew when he first come through, they were like magic. That's how they explained it, and he was like, "Y'all have magic here too."
so yeah, that's what I'm know a Doctor Strange in that universe eventually.
Because here's my thing, I feel like that's a line that should have been given to Toby's. Because in one of the Spider-Man movies, for him, they were mentioning trying to figure out a name as like Doctor Strange is like no, and J. Jonah Jameson was like, no, that's already taken.
Yeah, that would have made sense.
But yeah, they end up like fighting each other.
Not too long. A couple of strings of web, but nothing too crazy.
But yeah, they ended up like yo, we need to find Peter, like our Peter.
Exactly. And so the only
Because
place they knew, they asked each of them,
Where do you
Where
like
was
to
your
go?
place to go to get away from everything?
Uh, uh, I think Toby said his was Empire State, and Andrew's like Chrysler Building. It has a better view, and Toby's like, yeah, that is a great view.
Exactly. And so they knew his spot was the spot that he was at earlier above the school.
Yeah.
And Ned and MJ was like, we have some people here.
And Andrew Garfield Spider Man was like, I'm sorry about Aunt May.
Exactly.
It's like, you don't know what I've been through.
Which is wrong, because here's what I consider a multiversal nexus event. They all each have to lose someone close to them. Toby lost Uncle Ben.
Yes.
Andrew lost Gwen.
Yes.
And then Toby lost Aunt May.
Yeah.
So I feel like every Spider-Man has to lose someone close to him. And that's just, it has to happen. It's a Nexus event.
I think so too. Something I want to bring up that happened in Far From Home that I'm now curious about is that if you look at towards the beginning of Far From Home, Peter has a suitcase and on it are the initials BFP.
Yeah.
Which is Benjamin Franklin Parker.
Exactly. His Uncle Ben.
So it's just like, now what happened to Uncle Ben? Like,
are they now going to bring in this next trilogy Uncle Ben in as maybe someone who kind of just left Peter out of his life, and Aunt May was the only one left for some weird reason?
yeah. Or maybe it's like his dad's brother, but he was left with Aunt May, who could be like his mom's sister or something. I don't know.
Something. I have no idea. But there's not a confirmed death on
Uncle Ben.
Tom's Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
And the suitcase is the only thing we have, like, referencing to him. Maybe in this Spider-Man show we're getting on Disney Plus about his freshman year, maybe that's going to give us something.
Maybe.
But they ended up talking. They all figure out, hey, we're all Spider-Men.
Exactly. And so then they're like, all right, basically, Andrew, and this is why people are, I feel, wanting another Andrew movie, is because he said a line that makes it feel that he became a murderous Spider-Man after his loss of Gwen.
Yes. Because it seemed like he went on because if I remember right, he said he went on a pretty rough spree.
Exactly, to where if you're a villain, he's going to kill you. He ain't going to let you live. While Toby learned his lesson early, Andrew didn't. And so I think everyone wants to see a third movie, possibly about that missing time that was said.
Yeah.
With that line.
Because, see, there was an instance in the comics where someone sent out a hit on Aunt May.
Exactly.
And almost killed her. Well, Peter finds out who it was, and it was Kingpin, who was in prison, and Kingpin, he beats Kingpin. Like, he walks in there, and he's like, oh, is Spider-Man here to beat me up? And Peter takes off the mask and says, no, but Peter Parker is.
Exactly.
And he beats Kingpin within an inch of his life.
So it's one of those
And
things
said,
where
next time I come back here, I will fill your lungs with wet fluid.
and so we can kind of see these paths where Toby takes one path due to a death, and Andrew takes that murderous path.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a fork in the road where one side is what Toby took, one side is what Andrew took, and then now this Peter, Tom Holland's Peter, is at that fork in the road.
Exactly. And I kind of want to see a third movie showing us this version of Andrew.
I kind of want to see a fourth one for this of Toby.
Exactly. And so they are sitting there, and Toby's basically saying, you can't kill these people.
Yeah, like you gotta let it go.
You got it, it's one of those things to where you have to be good.
Yeah.
And so that's when they came up with the idea, let's try to cure these people one by one.
Yeah. They go to the lab and they're all talking and they all do the kind of like the pointing Spider-Man meme.
Oh yeah, because that was another thing we wanted was that, and they did it, and I was like,
because Ned looks up and goes, Peter, and they're all like, yeah, and he's like, no, Peter Parker. It's like, yeah, it's like, no, Peter Parker, that Spider-Man. They're like, what?
Yeah. And so another Nexus event that pops up for me when it comes to Spider-Man is their best friend eventually becomes a villain. You had it with Toby.
What about Andrew?
Andrews did as well.
When?
I'm pretty sure Andrews did as well.
I might be blanking because I haven't watched those movies since they came out. That's been about a decade ago.
Like I am pretty sure that as well because they were all explaining to them what happened.
Yeah. But anyway.
No, hold on. I'm looking this up. But looking into it, his Harry Osborn becomes the Green Goblin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, all the friends end up becoming villains, and right now Ned is the only one who hasn't so far, but everyone feels like he's gonna become the Hobgoblin.
Yeah, that's the big theory right now because in the comics he does end up becoming Hobgoblin.
So I think that's probably gonna be Ned's fate, and so that's why I say I feel like that's also a Nexus event. Is
all the friends ends up either becoming a villain or dying.
Exactly.
But they all end up like figuring out like a solution for Andrew's Spider-Man does a solution for Dr. Connors.
Exactly. And everyone they kind of was looking at Toby and it's like, so you're telling me your shoots out of your body?
He's like, yeah, y'all don't.
And they go, no. And like Andrew Garfield's honestly freaked out about it too.
Yeah, like he's like it's one of those things where like, how does yours do that? Like, because if you notice, he keeps on looking at him, even though they like move the conversation.
Exactly, which I thought was hilarious.
But they ended up like finding a solution for Sandman, Electro, Doc Ock. No, not Doc Ock. Green Goblin. That's 3. And then who's the other one? Green
Sandman,
Goblin, Sandman, Electro,
Goblin, and the Lizard.
So that's 4.
Because Otto's already healed.
Yeah. So they end up like getting to the stat. Peter's on the phone with the Daily Bugle. And it was basically talking to JJ. It's like, hey, if y'all want to fight, meet me here.
Exactly. Setting up what seems to be the trap or the web trap that the Spider-Men are trying to do to capture the villains.
Yeah. And they ended up all meeting there, and they end up saying, they all end up fighting the villains, and they ended up failing.
The first time, and they kind of went back together, and they're like, "Yeah, we've all never really worked as a team."
And
But then Tom was
Tom's
like,
Peter is like, I've worked with the team. I've worked with the Avengers, and they're
"Yeah,
like, the other two are like, what's the Avengers?
yeah." I think it was Andrew was like, "Are they a band?"
Yeah, which is a Easter egg back to Infinity War, where where Bruce Banner is talking to Tony. Is like Tony's like the team broke up, and Bruce is like, they broke up like what, a band like the Beatles?
Exactly. And so they kind of were like, "All right, we're gonna have to just focus on them one at a time. So at least that way it's 3-on-1."
Yeah.
And a little bit before that, though, before Peter made the call, Toby and Andrew were talking back and forth to each other. And, Toby was pointing out, like, "Hey, quit talking bad about yourself, man. You're the amazing Spider-Man."
It's like, yeah, you're amazing.
And I feel like that was kind of a poke because it's like Toby has 3 movies, Tom has 3 movies, Andrew only has 2.
And something else I feel like they poked at it was when they're like talking to each other, saying, hey, we need to work together. Tom was like, I'm Spider One, and said, looked at Toby, said, you're Spider Two, and Andrew was Spider Man 3. And like, I feel like that was a poke at it because that's usually how people's rankings go.
Definitely now that Tom is getting another trilogy.
Yes.
And so now fast forward now to where they're just focusing on one villain at a time.
They get Sandman stuck in the Statue of Liberty, which now apparently they're fixing with Captain America's shield.
Exactly, which is interesting.
But they ended up getting the whatever needs to the thing.
They cured Sandman.
Yeah, which is what I was trying to say. Right before Toby, like, suffocates in sand.
Oh yeah, I was literally my girlfriend Emily was like, "No, this no, this can't happen,"
And
because that's her favorite Spider-Man, and luckily they got the antidote in time and healed him.
then they, I believe, did the Lizard,
And
got him healed.
got him healed with a kind of spray.
Yeah. And then they healed
Uh,
Electra and they were honestly struggling with him.
oh yeah.
And then Doc Ock shows up, and we were both kind of like, what's going on here? Because we were both kind of like, I feel like he's going to help, but like, what is he going to do?
And he finally did, and they cured Electro, and Electro made a comment to Andrew and was like, "Man, I always thought you were black. There has to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere."
Yeah, which is a nod to Miles Morales, who has had a mention in, I can't remember if it's Homecoming or Far From Home, but I think it was Homecoming, where Tom Spider Man was talking to this guy, and he was like, "Oh, I got a nephew in this neighborhood," and stuff like that. And then he's on the phone and he says, "Miles."
Exactly. So I feel like this upcoming trilogy will be Tom's last, and then 7, 8, and 9 will be with Miles
Yes.
as his replacement.
But then they turn to Goblin.
Who's the last one?
And Peter ends up fighting him. Tom Holland's Peter starts fighting him by himself pretty much. And almost like kills him.
Oh yeah, the Captain American shield fell down to the ground, and they're fighting on top of it. And Peter just knocks down Green Goblin and just starts wailing on him, one punch after the other.
And Green Goblin is honestly laughing.
Oh yeah,
Gave me
very Joker-esque.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, gave me very Joker vibes.
Yeah, very Joker-esque. And I think that's why everyone loved William Dafoe coming back. And so then Toby and Andrew just look at him, and he just laughs and rides.
And then Andrew goes down. Toby goes down there and like stops him before Peter can like take the glider and stab him.
And stab him because he's like, you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is that's how he died the first time, was because Toby
he activated the glider and then Peter jumped over it and then
exactly, because and then all of a sudden you hear a stab and Toby gets stabbed, and let me tell you, Emily was about to cry because she thought Toby was going to die because of this. He ended up healing Norman, and Norman was like, looked over at Toby and was like, what have I done?
Yeah, and Andrew ends up coming down there and was talking to him. Peter's like, I gotta go talk to Doctor Strange. And then Andrew's like, that hurt, doesn't it? He's like, yeah, I'm in pain.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I've been stabbed before.
But Peter ends up talking to Doctor Strange,
who came back earlier in the fight.
Yes. And Doctor Strange ends up telling him, hey, I want to have to fix this because in the sky is breaking.
Yeah, literally the multiverse is breaking through, and you see what looks like possibly
Figures.
Craven, something that looks like Scorpion,
Something that looks like the Rhino.
the Rhino.
Which the Scorpion is already in the MCU.
Yeah, about to break through and come into the universe. And he's like, look, I can't hold it back. Doctor Strange was like, I can't hold this back any longer.
They're trying to come through.
Exactly.
And then Peter's basically just like, do it. He's like, I'll give you time to say your goodbyes, but you have to make it quick.
Exactly.
So Peter ends up telling MJ and Ned, and then basically like, I will find you and I will make you remember.
Exactly.
And MJ tells him, I love you, and she doesn't let him tell her. That way he can hold it in and like tell her and she'll remember.
Exactly. And then he goes back down to the Spider-Man, and they kind of said all their goodbyes to each other. And then Toby hits the line of, hey man, it's what we do. Going back to what Aunt May said.
Yeah. But they end up disappearing. Everybody ends up forgetting that Peter's Spider-Man.
Exactly. Or that he even exists.
Yeah.
And so he goes around after all this, and he couldn't even tell MJ who he was.
Or Ned.
He couldn't tell Happy.
Because he met Happy at the gravesite.
Exactly. And So it just really ends with him going out swinging into the night to fight crime.
Yeah. And if you notice, he made him a new suit.
Exactly.
More blue.
Yeah, more blue. So we'll probably be seeing that at some point.
You want
And yeah, that's how it ends is all of the villains are cured and sent back to their universes.
you want to bring up what I showed you earlier?
Well, hold on. So this would mean because they were taken from right before their deaths.
Yeah.
And so when they got sent back, that means all of them are healed.
Yes.
That means all of them are alive and they don't die. But yes, explain your which means all the movies are almost rewritten almost.
Yes.
But yeah, tell the listeners what you saw.
So I saw this TikTok and where it shows in the Toby movie, the first Toby Maguire movie, where uh Green Goblin is attacking at the like kind of like festival thing, and you can see a Green Goblin behind him standing
Oh,
there.
exactly.
And so I brought that up to Thomas, and I was just like, "Yo, like, look at this." I was like, "That it kind of explains what happened in No Way Home."
Exactly.
So I was like, "What if this is kind of like, because it could be either like photoshopped or it could have been like a blooper in the movie or something, or a mistake
Exactly.
in the movie." But that would be cool if that was like connected to No Way Home.
Showing the good one behind them.
Yes. But you want to talk about the end credit scenes?
Yeah, so the movie before the end credit scene was everything I wanted out of it.
Except for one thing.
Well, obviously the music.
Yes. I wish they would have played Hero by Chad Kroger.
But besides that, I have no issue with the movie.
Me either.
Now we hit the mid credit scene. And it has Tom Hardy and Venom sitting at a bar trying to understand
What
this world full of superpowers.
they're trying to understand what's literally happened from Iron Man 1 to Endgame. Honestly.
Exactly.
Because he's like a man in a metal suit, a big green dude, a purple alien. Like, we know aliens. I don't think there's a purple one.
And so the bartender's trying to help him as well. Venom and Tom Hardy are drunk. And this is going on, I would say, during the fight sequence and during the Doctor Strange
Spell.
doing the next spell. And so here's my connection I was talking about earlier. You had the animals, you had the elements, and think about this, you had the voices in the head.
Ooh.
That's where Goblin and Venom connect.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's how it makes sense
What
of
wouldn't Doc Ock be both like octopus and voices in the head?
yeah, technically, even though it's artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a computer talking to them and controlling them.
Yeah.
Um,
But anyway,
but anyway, and so like you said, he was trying to understand everything that's happened.
and then he like stands up like, "Hey, I'm getting out of here. I gotta go find the spider dude."
well, Venom was wanting to go skinny dipping.
Yeah.
And then he glows like the rest of them and disappears back to his own universe.
Yes, but most importantly, leaves a little bit of Venom behind.
Which means that more than likely the climax, I'm calling it right now, Spider-Man 6, Tom's last one as Spider-Man. It's going to be him versus what I'm going to call the MCU Venom.
Yes.
And so now I feel like they're going to do cutscenes of this little bit of Venom trying to find its perfect host.
I feel like that too.
And
What
I
if?
kind of agree with you on this. I think it's going to be Flash.
Yes. Because I can see one or two things now that I've been thinking about. It's either going to be Flash or this universe's Eddie Brock.
Exactly. And so my issue with it is,
Venom didn't have nothing to do in the movie.
well, not only that, but when he got moved to the MCU, I thought that Tom Hardy and Tom were going to eventually meet, possibly in Spider-Man 4. And that is what I was expecting out of this storyline, not them simply using this to their advantage so that way the MCU can have a Venom.
I feel like this is kind of like a tease to be like, oh, you watch Venom 2 and you're like, oh, they're going to put him in No Way Home. And then that's an incentive to go watch No Way Home just to put him in the end credits, post credit scene and be like, oh, he got vanished back to his own reality. Wasn't even in the actual movie.
Yeah, I felt like it was almost a cop out, so that way they didn't have to really work together too much to make them be both on screen at the same time.
Yeah.
And so now they're like, Sony's like, okay, here's a little bit of Venom, so that way y'all can have y'all's version of Venom.
Yeah.
And we can keep our Venom in our universe.
See, before that happened, you know what I feel like's going to happen?
What?
Somehow Venom's going to be like, hey, we left a little bit of me behind. And they're going to end up like having to bring Venom back to get the little piece that he left behind. Kind of like how
but I don't.
Kind of
Okay,
like how
so
he ate the carnage.
here's my theory about everything. I think the climax of this story will be a multiversal event.
Yeah.
I believe this is not the last time we will see Andrew or Toby. I think they're going to be in the multiversal end event. And I believe Tom Hardy's going to be as well. But he will be fighting on the side with the heroes, while this one will be on the side of the villains.
Ooh, I like that.
I just have this feeling like this isn't going to be the last time we're going to see Toby, Andrew, or Tom. I feel like the multiversal event kind of have Thanos was like the climax.
Yeah.
Whatever this one is going to bring everyone together to defend the multiverse.
I think that's a pretty good thing. No, I mean, I would go
Now,
watch it.
Now go ahead and talk about the last credit scene.
So, like the end credits was basically a teaser for Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, which is pretty much a sequel to this movie.
Yeah. But it shows like Doctor Strange like talking to Wanda, Scarlet Witch, and then she's like, oh, I've been wanting to talk to you. And it's like, yeah, I'm not, basically like, I'm not here about Westview. I'm here to talk to you about something else. And then it shows like two Doctor Stranges, and I'm just like, is that Mephisto? Is that
Yeah,
a,
because what they said in the trailer was basically the greatest threat to this multiverse is you.
yeah. Or is it a variant of Doctor Strange?
Well, it could be Mephisto.
Yeah.
Like you said, Mephisto could be the greatest threat to the multiverse, and he's just acting like Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like it's either Mephisto or a variant of Doctor Strange.
Exactly. And so that's where it ends. So Randy, out of okay, so we're gonna do icebergs 1 to 5, 5 being perfect, 1 being terrible. You can even go 0 or negatives if you want. What would you rate Spider-Man No Way Home?
I'd give it a 5.
A 5, it's perfect.
I'd go 4.9.
4.9. All right.
Almost perfect. I would say the only things that would make it perfect is Venom having a much bigger role in the movie, but that's like the only thing I think what is holding it back.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Spider-Man No Way Home a 4.5, 4.5 icebergs out of 5. I'm docking him 0.5 because of the Venom mid credit scene. Um, if to me, I would give it a 5 if they were like they could even leave the skinny dip thing in line in, but them actually knowing that they're heading to New York.
Yeah.
That would have made me say it is perfect 5 out of 5.
Yeah. You want me to do some Easter eggs?
Yeah, now that we did that, let's do some Easter eggs.
In the like opening minutes, you can see a poster for Rogers the Musical, which is from Hawkeye,
Interesting.
which I pointed out in the movie.
Yeah, you did.
And you know when Peter and MJ stop on the bridge right there at the beginning?
Yeah.
That is that's the Queensboro Bridge. That is where in Spider-Man Green Goblin dropped MJ.
Yep,
And the
true.
kids in the Roosevelt thing.
Yep, you're right.
And also when they pop out of the sewer, you see Delmar's 3, which is the third location of Delmar's Deli, which was introduced in Homecoming.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have Damage Control,
Yeah, damage control.
which was introduced also in Homecoming. What Mary Jane Watson, not Mary Jane, but Michelle Jones is now Michelle Jones Watson, which we talked about. Uh, Inside Happy's apartment, you can spot Downton Abbey's DVD, which is we learned is his favorite movie, favorite show, which is mentioned. Tony mentioned it in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, go ahead.
Protesters outside of Midtown High were holding several signs. One refers to him as the devil,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm just saying that could be a Mephisto thing, but it also goes in to say there was a Spider-Man One More Day 7-issue comic run where Peter makes a deal with Mephisto to bring back Aunt May.
Which possibly,
But
yeah, that could still be a story.
but uh but it says it gives details about it. It says Mephisto even takes the form of Peter and MJ's future daughter in the comic.
Oh wow.
When Betty Brant, we talked about this. Betty Brant says, "Go get him, Tiger."
Yeah, they threw that in there.
When they're walking through the school, they have like murals of famous scientists, inventors, stuff like that on in the school. And if you look, you can see Hank Pym and Howard Stark.
Hey, there you go.
I noticed this in the movie, but I didn't say nothing. You can see when they're laying on top of the roof, MJ and Peter. You can see Ditko on the wall behind them,
Hmm.
which is a nod to Steve Ditko, who co-created Spider-Man with Stan Lee.
Yeah, good little shout out.
Uh, when Peter visits Doctor Strange, I talked about this. He's wearing his Columbia University sweater.
Yeah, we covered that one.
When he asks, uh, when they're talking about, he's adding people to, he wants to make sure to people who do remember him. It's a similar storyline in the Amazing Spider-Man comics where Peter asks Doctor Strange if everyone can forget except for MJ.
Yeah, which throws that out.
When Aunt May and Peter are opening his college acceptance letters, he's building the Lego Death Star, which with the dumb E, which is a callback to one when Ned destroys his Death Star after finding out Peter is Spider Man,
Exactly.
and the dummy was helping Stark in Iron Man 1.
Hmm.
Uh, on the highway when he's trying to catch up with the MIT vice chancellor, you can see we talked about this about the license plates.
Oh yeah.
You can see 63 ASM 3, which is the a nod to the Amazing Spider-Man issue 3, which was released in 1963, which is the first appearance of Doc Ock.
Which just little details like that are so good.
Yeah. You get the vice chancellor's car has the license plate that reads 1228, which is a nod to Stan Lee because his birthday is December 28th.
Huh.
When the teaser trailer dropped, people thought that the Peter in the suit on top of the car was actually Toby
Huh.
because the suit was a nod to Spider-Man 3. Uh, when Doc Ock first confronts Peter, he says, "The power of the sun in the palm of my hand," which is what he said in Spider-Man 2. Right before he was turned into Doc Ock the first time.
Exactly.
MJ picked up a box for a goatee template.
Which means Doctor Strange is having to use that to keep his hair dark.
Yeah. When Doctor Strange, no wait, when Peter finds Electro and Sandman, he's wearing the a black and gold Spider-Man suit, which is the suit turned out. This was previously referenced in Homecoming when Peter removed Tony's tracking chip.
Exactly. So that's literally just a suit inside out.
Aunt May works at Feast, which is a homeless shelter taken directly from the Marvel Spider-Man video games.
Which I thought was real cool.
Oh yeah, I did too. Norman brilliantly says, I'm something of a scientist myself," which is what he said to Toby's Peter. When Peter is trying to steal the rug spell from Doctor Strange, he briefly wears Doctor Strange's cape, which not only happened in the What If episode 5, but as well as the comics.
Exactly. Yeah. At one point.
Um, uh, we talked about. I brought this up when they go past a newsstand while fighting Doctor Strange. You can see Liv's Toombs, which is Adrian Toombs' girlfriend, Adrian Toombs' daughter in Homecoming,
Yeah.
who was Peter's girlfriend in Homecoming. And on it, it's her, and he says he's a liar.
Hmm.
When Aunt May flirts with Doc Ock and asks, "Do you want some water?" It relates to the comics where Aunt May and Doctor Otto Octavius date for a brief period.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, ooh, Aunt May.
When Aunt May's dying, she utters, "With great power, there must also come great responsibility," which is a direct quote from the comics.
Cool.
Ned learns that Toby's Peter dealt with his best friend dying, Harry betraying him, and then dying, and Ned looks worried.
Yeah, which I
Sadly, this is a nod to Ned's comic book trajectory where he's thought to be the Hobgoblin.
and I think he will become it.
Yeah. We talked about this, the meme pointing.
Oh yeah, the pointing meme.
Let's see, while preparing for all the villain, all the fight with all the villains, Andrew's Peter adorably cracks Toby's Peter back when he talks about how it bothers him. It's a funny moment that actually is a callback to Spider-Man 2 when Peter hurt his back after jumping off a building.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that.
When the three Peters are chatting, Toby's Peter calls Andrew's Peter amazing, which is an on the nose reference to him being the Amazing Spider-Man. Toby's Peter mentions that he fought an alien made of black glue, which is a reference to obviously Venom. Let's see. When Electro meets them at the Statue of Liberty, he's now rocking a suit that's closely mirrors the look from the comics.
Which I thought was real cool.
When Andrew Spear luckily takes the codename Peter 3, which could honestly be a nod to the fact that for years Andrew's portrayal was notoriously ranked after Toby's and Tom's, which we talked about. And this was a reference I caught. Doctor Strange eventually returns from the mirror dimension and says he's been dangling over the Grand Canyon for 12 hours. But that's similar to how Loki was falling in Thor Ragnarok, and Loki was like, "I had been falling for 30 minutes."
Oh wow.
Uh, this is something we also we forgot to bring up, but this is a really sad, like really heartbreaking callback. Is when Andrews Peter is able to save MJ after she falls from the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, which is kind of a um
Sad callback to him couldn't save Gwen.
well, it kind of gives him a I keep wanting to say restoration, but a redeeming of what he couldn't do.
Yeah, because if you notice, and when he saves Gwen, he uses his webs, and it like ends up killing her. But this time he catches MJ, holds her, and then swings away.
Yeah, when he lands, he has tears in his eyes.
When we talked about this when the multiverse began to crack open, you can spot silhouettes of Rhino and Scorpion in the sky. Uh, the world forgetting Peter Parker is happened at the end of the Spider-Man comic One More Day. After the battle, you can see that the Statue of Liberty is fixed at the end. It has not been turned into a Captain America memorial.
Yeah, true. It didn't have the shield at all.
When Peter goes to MJ after her memory is erased, You can still see that she's wearing the broken Black Dahlia necklace Peter gave her in Far From Home.
Oh wow.
Peter still has the Lego figure of Palpatine that Ned was using to invite him to come do the Lego Death Star with him.
Interesting.
The suit that he wears at the end is the not to the classic Spider-Man suit from the comics.
Okay, so maybe we're gonna finally get that as a suit. Want more content from me and Randy? Go check us out on Twitch at Iceberg Gaming TTV and Itsktowngaming, where we stream multiple games live.
We're also on YouTube at Thomas RJ Engel and K-Town-Gaming, where we play 3 games and have other content for you to enjoy. If you want to follow us on social media, all of them will be in the details of this episode. Support us at patreon.com/TRJI, where you can get our content first before anyone. If you are unable to invest in us monetarily, then you can by following, leaving reviews, chatting with us, liking, commenting, and sharing. Thank you for the support.
Thank you for listening to the Iceberg Lounge. Don't forget to give us a follow, leave us a review, and share this episode. Know God loves you, and we love you, and always remember, all to God. See you in the next episode.